Okay, so I'm going to work with another feature similar to the guides, which is working with grids. We don't know it, but right now we are working on a grid. We just cannot see it. So in order to actually see the grid that we're working on, I can hit the Command key and then hit the apostrophe key to toggle those grids on. And now we can see I can turn them on and off as I please. But when we're working with grids, you want to make sure that those grids are in front. So if I do Command K, I can bring up my preferences. I'm going to go to Guides and Grid, and I'm going to make sure that the grids in back is unchecked. I want to see those grids on top of the objects that I'm working on. I'll go ahead and click OK. And what we're going to do is just practice using the grid to kind of draw this simple outline of a face. So right here it says 5 inches, so that's the diameter of this circle. So let's go ahead and use our guides to kind of figure out that exact shape of that circle. I'll go ahead and turn on my grids. And the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to now move from snap to point to snap to grid. So I'll go view and I'll unclick the snap to point or uncheck it, and then I'll go view and snap to grid. That means when I start to pull these guides off, instead of snapping to intersections along our objects, it's now going to snap to the grid that we're working on. So I'll bring it to about right there, and I need to turn on the visibility of that guide. And now I can change the origin point. So I'll drag that right on over here, and I'll just make sure that it's right on that guide I just made. And I will drag another guideline down. And it looks like it's actually at 5.5 inches. I'm gonna have to change that on the template. Okay, so it's 5.5 inches for the diameter. And so now I'm going to take my ellipse tool, make sure I have the black stroke selected. I'll increase the size just a little bit. And now I'm going to start way up here on my grid, and I will click and drag. And I started up here right on this guideline so that as I pull down, it's going to snap onto that 5.5 inch portion. So once I'm there, I'm also holding down on the shift key. I can release. And there we have a 5-inch ellipse. And I've used the guidelines to kind of measure that out. I'll go ahead and nudge that over with the keyboard keys. So right about there, and then I'll do Command and click. I'll go ahead and take off the visibility on those guides. And so now I can just draw along this grid. Now since I have snap to grid, as I draw, all the points are going to snap to the intersections along this grid. So it's going to make it a little bit easier to work on. For this drawing, I'm going to actually use the pen tool. So it's located right up here in the tool panel. I can also hit the P for pen. And when I use this tool, I'm going to make sure not to click and drag. Okay, I'll repeat that again. Don't click and drag. If I click and start dragging, I'm going to start making curved points. For this, I don't want to do that. So I'm just going to click once. I'll start right here, click once and release, and then I'll move to the next point, click once and release. And that's how we're going to use this tool for this part of the exercise. So I'm starting just on the outline of this face. It might not be perfectly lined up on your template, but get something that's relatively close. So as I go around, I can see that it's snapping to the grid. I'll go ahead and end it right here, right at the hairline. Remember, Command click to end a path. So I'll go ahead and come back to here, and as I hover next to that point, it's giving me a little dash line next to the pen tool. That's just letting me know that it's going to continue this path. So I'll go ahead and do that. And I'll end it right there on the start of that part of the hairline. Cool, let's keep practicing. So I'm going to start here. So this is near the edge of the ear. And I want to make sure not to finish this path. Click from here to right here. If I actually go back onto this path, it's giving me like a little square symbol. That means it's going to loop this path. I don't want to do that. So I'm just going to click from here back to here. And then I'll kind of follow the outline of the head. I'll come in just a little bit. and I do want to loop it back to where I started. Click Command and click. So at this point right here, I want to actually move it back. So I can use the white arrow, click once on that point, and then click again and hold, and I can drag that back into place. I could also do the same thing for this one. Click once, and then click and drag it back into place. Let's go ahead and finish up the last part of these line details. P for the pen tool. Jawline. Go ahead and connect this point, this corner for the lips. Command click when I'm done, and then finalize it with the eyebrows. All right, so our first face outline, okay, using paths. Let's go ahead and just bring this to a finished state. I'm going to go ahead and play around with the stroke weights. So I'll select this shape here, and I'll increase the border to about a 10-point stroke weight. And the reason I kept this outline here separate is because I wanted it to be a little bit thicker. So I'll bring this up to 5, and I'll bring this hair shape, I'll bring this one up to about 4. And that way we get a little bit of depth in our drawing. Okay, so once I'm finished with that, I can turn off the grid, Command and apostrophe.